What's a Nunu to do?
Yeah, Nunu unfortunately struggling there as we are back into our third game draft with what could be our last game of the evening. Snake on the blue side, IG over on the red. And the bans are done here. Snake banning Cassiopeia, LeBlanc, and Gragas for themselves. So 2 bans against Rookie, and Xerath, Maokai, and Lulu banned by IG gives Snake a pretty quick pick of Sejuani.
And that's the engage button. So finally something different from Beast in particular. Has the much more engage-focused jungle, although you see that and you think, okay, what fighters can I choose? Maybe I go back to the Lee Sin that we've already seen 11 times this season from Kakao. Maybe you just continue on the likes of Rek'Sai and just really try and get in the face of Sejuani and ensure that she doesn't get an uninterrupted jungle path into her level 6 power spike, which is so fierce in this rift.
Curious to see what IG want to take away. You can see the Azir hover would be a good takeaway from Baka. That's all he's played so far, and in fact, it's 2 very Snake-looking champions, honestly, here as the first 2 picks. Janna and Azir, both taken by Invictus Gaming.
I guess the big question is, what does Baka have to actually deal with the Azir? Will he go passive himself with the likes of the Xerath for the return of everyone's favorite 5.2 matchup? No, of course, Xerath has hit the ban list here. So Azir without Xerath open, I have to think the only champion that really makes some semblance of sense is the Vladimir that's actually shown quite a bit of proficiency on. It's not an ideal laning matchup, but you get that Revolver with a modicum of harass, and you just evolve into a bit of split farming with the Azir.
I feel like we say that about every single Vladimir lane. It's not very good, and then you kind of get to level 9 and get your Revolver, and everything's just fine again.
It sounds like either Aurelia or Vladimir, just fill in the lane, fill in the time, around level 9 and a certain item and things get better. That's just the reality of those champions. Not sure what it says about the balance, but regardless, things get better for Vladimir as the game goes on.
I like these picks a lot from Snake, though. Tristana Nami actually going for a bit of a different hyper carry. Crystal, once upon a time, was the Tristana player in China.
And look, if there's a lucky charm that's actually stood around for Snake, it's ironically one of the kind of slept-on ones in Nami. 3-0 on Nami is Ella probably only picking it up when Janna's hit the ban list and going for your secondary Disengage champion. Disengage is still the story, but the reworked Tristana is the big factor. 5-1 is Crystal on Tristana, but we're talking about old Tristana before the rework came through. This is patch 5.7, where 2 tiers of buffs have come towards the Tristana, basically completely incentivizing using the explosive charge on an enemy champion and this auto-attacking it down with rapid fire. Both those abilities scale with cooldown reduction based on using rapid fire aggressively against the champion who's marked with the explosive charge. So in terms of single target burst, I feel like Tristana is very good against champions like Kalista. Anyone who wants to stand up and then use an auto-attack modifier, whether it's the Twitch Expunge, whether it's Kalista with her Ren stacks, you cannot deal with the burst damage of Tristana in lane.
No, and RG have gone for Jinx Nunu instead, so a very EDG Snake-esque type of pairing there, but Flandre's Trundle was not banned away. It's actually their pick there, and Baka, with his ear banned away, goes to Orianna as his pick here.
This is a champion we expected Baka to play. Of course, it fits his playstyle as more of a wave clear player, but I don't know if he's actually played Orianna or Split.
Jeez.
It's a very intense engage option. Speaking of intense lock-ins, that's a Kayle.
The level of all-in is very high as the tie will take away Kayle as his top lane pick here, and you can just look down the lineup there and see the synergy for Invictus Gaming. Kid might be lining up for another pentakill.
I'm really interested to see how this Kayle pulls out. You have to think the Kayle versus Trundle matchup is reminiscent of another matchup that Kayle really dominated. Of course, Kayle versus Singed was long seen the hard counter to Singed. Any fiercely melee champion has to deal with the Q and then just the auto attacks coming through from Kayle, and just doesn't really have a lot of ways to deal with it, just because, again, the sheer slow coming through from the Q means it's very hard to trade damage. But this is a tie on another champion who's played in the mid lane. He's shown us the Karth, he's shown us the Fizz. Now it's Kayle top.
Yeah, Sejuani Nunu there, of course, the jungle matchup. Kakao, we'll see if he can hold down Beast once again. Orianna here for Baka, again, seems to fit his playstyle, but does not have very many plays on the champion up against Rookie's Azir.
This is such an interesting comp coming through from IG, because just let's look on a simple level. They have Nunu Azir, which has already got excellent synergy, of course, between the two. Nunu Jinx, that's an excellent turret-pushing duo. Nunu Kale's no slouch either. Even if one person's picked off, they have so many different Blood Boil targets, and now they have literally a 4-man support comp for the Jinx. They've got the Kayle ultimate. They've got Nunu and all his space control. Azir's got the Emperor's Divide, and then Janna's the Queen of Disengage. Good luck killing Kid. Already got a pentakill, so definitely got his Jinx mechanics going. It's all about Kid again.
Yeah, we'll say Kid can get it done. Wait, is another pentakill coming? We'll find out shortly as we get onto the Rift. Under the rift here for Snake versus Invictus Gaming. Snake currently down 0-2 here as they're trying to fight back and see if they can find themselves at least forcing a fourth game here. But Invictus Gaming looking to sweep the LPL playoffs third place match here and collect a bit of extra money and precious circuit points as well. Not circus points.
No circus points involved, although Trundle, he's the big trump card here for Snake. He's the champion who's been significantly banned away in multiple series from Flandre. We've seen Flandre basically solo win games, split pushing with 40% CDR and the likes of a Tiamat into a Ravenous Hydra, and just disregarding tanks and pushing in objectives. Hard to disregard the damage from a KO, who of course shreds your armor and magic resist with her passive.
Yeah, 5-man invade though coming through for Snake, wanting to get some early vision down. Quite possibly wants to swap Crystal out of the lane matchup here, but we are going to at least see the Jinx there for Snake, and it might be more than that. They might even be looking to take away buffs, but vision goes down, and we'll see what else they want to do.
I'd actually be surprised if Snake were looking for a lane swap. I actually expect a 2v2 coming in, just because Tristana and Nami has to be a more aggressive lane up than Jinx and Janna. Of course, Janna's always going to be a purely disengaged support. Nami does actually have some tools to open up quite aggressive laning phases. One of the reasons why Nami Kog'Maw is a very popular Kog'Maw lane is that it really empowers Kog'Maw to go aggressive. You don't need any extra impetus to get Crystal to go aggressive as a player, and Tristana is an aggressive playstyle champion. So 2v2 would definitely suit Snake, but a lane swap, again, not going to be a big deal. You don't really want Flandre in a 2v2 until he hits that Tiamat 2,000 goldish power swap.
Yeah, and IG pretty massively dodged that lane swap as well. I think Snake did a great job spotting Jinx and thought they would go top, but instead looking for a 2v2 there. We'll find a 2v0 right now instead, and Crystal not going to skill any points quite yet, doesn't want to push the wave with explosive shot.
But it wouldn't be this series without a pause. To get more time to just smile at all the synergies coming through on IG, but that's taking away probably too much from Snake, because they've had 2 games where Engage hasn't really been the name of the game, but Sejuani, Orianna is a very strong Engage comp. And of course, even Trundle getting some sort of flank and putting that pillar of ice around the back of a team can set up those skill shots. That's kind of the unique thing about the Trundle's pillar, is that when you're, say, sieging with this composition, you throw the pillar next to a turret, suddenly everyone's forced into a very narrow corridor. They've already changed the trade-offs in patch 5.6, I believe, coming into 5.7 with Sejuani ultimate being that if she misses the actual stun effect, the slow goes down to about 30% as we see some of our Western brethren enjoying the LPL final. But it's just that much easier to hit those skill shots now with the Trundle Pillar of Ice.
Yeah, and you can see what Snake want to do here. Very proactive team comp, lots of Engage coming through, and that was honestly what they were lacking with the Nunu pick. Very passive jungler, very passive laners coming through there as well. Just trying to tip themselves toward the late game situation and kind of cross your fingers and hope to win team fights. Snake, we've said it all season long, fantastic in any sort of team fight, so finally they're going to get an opportunity to take it to IG when they want.
It's such a much more proactive comp coming through page time. It's the hard CC. It hasn't really been the name of the game. The Jarvan to some degree was about the early ganking. Sejuani not necessarily a Jarvan replacement, it's not the level 2 power, but it's still a lot of gank pressure at level 6.
Well, with the lane swap happening, we will jungle vertically this time around. Flandre maybe happy to dodge the KO matchup at least a bit here. They're going to help Beast through his top side of the jungle. Now, of course, IG's red side is the tie and kick out. Going to take away the red buff there as well and move down to the Krugs.
I was going to say, the jungle fall is actually pretty quick. Every time they get to a new camp and the E is available, he's splashing damage through quite happily. No rush to take Smite, of course. No teleport Smite Kale coming through just yet. But the push is fast. And speaking of fast push, I think it's time.
Yeah, Kale's great in this sort of situation. It makes sense here for IG. They'll line up the wave. There's a cannon moving in already. And on the third wave, they're going to try and take out the tower, and it's falling quickly.
Exactly. The minion wave is still at the inner turret. It's going to fall down, I have to think, in just a few seconds from all the different attack-based champions that come through. And there's no way for Tristana and the 4-man group coming through from Snake to react, at least at the same speed that we're seeing this one go down.
I mean, they're trying. Tristana's pretty good at pushing turrets with explosive shot, but Jinx maybe just that much better here as Kid. Going to take a little while. Make sure you denies a couple of extra creeps and take some turret shot for it, but does get the turret.
You're giving Kid far too much credit. He just wants the solo gold coming through page time. You get 275 gold if you're not sharing it with anyone else. And since IG have been jungling on the bottom side, Dragon is their free objective as Snake desperately trying to answer that turret. No hope of doing it with the speed of this IG comp.
They're going to try and take it away. They'll probably get the trade here, but Dragon will go to IG, so the first advantage will be up there. Kakao once again committing to a buff without Smite. Seems to be his favorite thing to do. And Kid even sticking around on the bottom side, able to continue to get some free gold.
Actually a pretty deep cut coming through. Of course, Kakao in the first couple weeks before the charge system was even there in the LPL, was happy to just smite champions and then go for Barons without the smite. Now he's got 2 charges. This early in the game, not really a relevant thing. I guess we didn't mention that Crystal, one of the new things with this reworked Tristana, we just haven't seen much in competitive play, although Uzi was breaking it out the other day in OMG's match against LGD. The big factor is that the one thing you do have much earlier is turret killing pressure, as that explosive charge does work happily on turrets.
You can see the trade coming through there, and that double dipping you mentioned with the rapid fire explosive shot does also work on turrets as well. So you have some options there for pushing, especially in the mid to late stages. But we're actually going to continue the push here, and I haven't seen this in a very long time. And bless me, LPL. We used to do this a long time ago, but we actually keep pushing here. We're going to fast push for tier 2s now as well.
I'm actually quite worried about Zatai specifically. You have very low base health on this KO because he's much more of a fighter, much more aggressive champion against a champion with massive burst like Crystal's Tristana. You worry that if Crystal just goes crazy, and look, he's prone to do that from time to time, the kill pressure onto Zatai, even through double Dorans and a full health bar, is pretty considerable.
Yeah, and Beast joining into the bottom side means Flandre actually has time to take away the minions and protect his turret. They're doing a bit more work in the top side for Snake, but not enough turret damage. Kakao finally going to rotate in and babysit Zatai just a little bit.
Just help that wave. They try and push out the lane a little bit. All this time, isolated mid lane matchup. Azir doing comfortable, and as you'd expect, split farming between Azir and Orianna.
Yeah, Beast going to line it up again, though. Maybe even fancies a gank this time around as Flandre taking quite a few hits there actually just from the Jinxie minigun form, and we are heavily committing to this push.
Look, IG are happy with this situation because, again, they have a comp that has no semblance of engage whatsoever. But it's just fantastic appealing for a hypercarry. They want the enemy team to force fights. And look, Snake will gleefully take that. They have Sejuani, Orianna. They're looking for team fights themselves. But if you can force fights on your own terms, get a ward advantage over a neutral like Dragon that increasingly Snake will need to opt into fights, that's the way that IG will win this game, is forcing fights on their own terms. And first Dragon and getting those early turrets is really pushing them towards that time.
Yeah, you can see Baka there in the mid lane taking a bit of harass, but keeping up nicely in CS on his Orianna. Double Dorans there for the Ori, as Rookie's got his Dorans plus a Chalice. So moving in for things here, I imagine Baka will do the same. Nami going to rotate in looking for a gank, but can't find too much. And a Trailblazer down there for Kakao. Going to be matched by Barmy Cinder there by Beast.
It feels like Kakao's just going to come top and they're going to gank this turret pastry time. They're not interested in killing Trundle. Trundle's still no Tiamat, only a pickaxe, has to watch as turrets fall down. Beast is probably going to show a little bit of pressure. There's only so much you can do against the Nunu Jinx turret pushing machine. There's a reason that EDG have played this combo so frequently.
He called back to, I believe, OMG versus LGD, and this was an LGD special in one of their games. Just going in around, got the 3 out of turrets at 12 minutes did LGD in that game, and IG going to do their best impression of that strategy here.
There's no way to balance out the machine gun form from Jinx. Okay, her base attack speed isn't that high, but when you're keeping the machine gun form up, you get a lot of turret damage done. Flandre has no way to harass the Jinx when in this case the bubble goes down. They just have so little CC to react. Beast is still level 4. They're just happy to keep pushing. And it's going to be a war of attrition that IG can only win.
Yeah, and they're going to give Crystal some time. That's the good news in the trade-off there for Snake, is he'll actually do just fine here in the current 1v1 matchup against Zatai with his BF sword. But Zatai going to go back, maybe spend some gold fairly soon, and going to come back and see if he can't make it a bit more competitive.
I mean, Zatai is just desperate to get level 6 so that the burst combo is no longer available there for Tristana in terms of getting a kill. No CC to actually interrupt the trades coming through. Zatai's taking a lot of damage.
Beast. That's a good flashlight coming through. Eats a Trumper, though. Actually got a bubble onto Kid that started that whole exchange. But again, Jana just fine. Sejuani forced back now, not getting enough experience, not farming the jungle. And as you said, this turret eventually might take a while, but it will go down.
And off screen, actually, Zatai took the full burst combo, didn't die, now has ultimate available. Suddenly life's a lot better as Flandre's just trying to scare them away from turret. But what can he really do?
I mean, Kakao taking some damage as well, but it doesn't really matter. Kid will get knocked up again. They'll actually go in aggressive here in the trade tank. Back and forth. Kid actually getting locked up. It's a turret hit. Smart stuff from Flandre, but Ella now low on mana, and IG, they're not going to stop. They're still pushing.
Honestly, they might consider just using the heal as a sustained mechanism. They're so close to picking up this turret. They do not want to stay top. They want to take it in the next minute because, of course, Dragon will be respawning, and having this objective, then getting the Dragon, will just be the snowball they're looking for this game. But credit to a spirited defense coming through, and specifically the mechanics of Ella. 3-0 and showing us why. Hitting that bubble as Did he actually steal it?
He did steal it. Kid, very nice Super Mega Death Rocket.
I mean, worth noting, he won't have it for the dragon fight necessarily. It'll be about 20 seconds or 30 seconds behind the dragon spawn, so they might want to delay the push coming through onto dragon, but it's vision time. They want to get that vision control, because again, big win condition for IG is monopolizing this dragon.
Yeah, I can only imagine that Worth was typed there for Kid, who steals away the buff, denying it crucially away from the Orianna. We can see now Avarice Blade once again for Kid. Seems to love this early Avarice Blade, does he?
He's just making his investments smartly, and he hasn't been harassed. And honestly, Cacao jungle pathing just helps him out. If there's been a communication that I'll have your back, and look, he's had it on his back, especially in that Draven game, it opens up options that are greedy like the Avarice Blade. And if he can stay out of burst trades with the Tristana, he's going to probably pay off that investment just fine.
You can see Crystal does have a slight lead as a result. Pickaxe now there as well, moving in for a slightly faster Infinity Edge. Bucket keeping up in CS. Flandre equalizing now with Zatai, which is good news for Zatai actually, who was struggling a little bit in the earlier 1v1, but Toronto going to stay there. Does have the turret like you mentioned as well, and Dragon, it's back up in a couple seconds. Not a whole lot of health left there, and Flandre maybe feels like he can't leave the lane, because IG, they want to do the Dragon, but Flandre kind of wants to protect his turret.
You can see it pushing aggressively down bot to open up what is going to be a very quick Dragon. They're going to have the disengage options aplenty. They prefer Zatai didn't have to teleport. Actually, he's going to be able to just backdoor this turret as the Tiamat purchase comes through from Toronto. So they've already got one objective. They can take the Dragon as well, piling them up early, IG.
Flandre might try and TP, though. I wonder if Snake wants to contest it. Could be a bit too risky.
They don't have the wards.
Yeah, I mean, they do use the Scrying Orb now, but that's too late. Cacao takes it away with Smite plus Consume, and that's a second Dragon to Invictus Gaming.
We talk about the duo of Jinx and Nunu taking down turrets. It's the same story with the Dragon, and unfortunately, they just didn't prep the wards in this situation. They were either swept out or just absent completely, and that's another free objective coming through for IG.
Yeah, Snake again find themselves in a position where they do have to try and catch up on Dragons as well. That's been one of the things that IG have really been on top of in this whole series is Dragon control.
I mean, honestly, in most ways, IG have been ahead, but you're right, the consistent factor has been the Dragon control. They're ahead in turrets in this situation as well. They have a comp with a very good identity that has one weakness, which is engaging team fights, and they're playing around that weakness by monopolizing Dragons.
Beast though coming in, trying to get a gank down. Bucky gonna line things up. Wave does come through. Will miss there, but Beast wants the ulti. Crystal even rocket jump forward just to get aggressive, and instead they might have to settle for a rotation.
That was a sick flash and EQ coming through from the Azir. I don't know how he managed to pick the exact perfect escape route, but he did, and that's why Rookie gets so much respect in the Chinese scene, is that his mechanics in lane, his understanding of dodging skill shots is really impressive.
Yeah, he's very hard to kill and very easy for him to kill you, it seems like, in a lot of situations, and has to be happy in these lane swaps because he gets the isolated lanes that he just loves so much.
Yeah, the CS values in mid, of course, 14 CS up. Probably not that surprising because Barker, again, on a fairly new champion, at least at the highest tier of competitive play. Other lanes going fine for Snake, but lane's going fine and just losing out massively on objectives, structures, and dragons in this case. It's a big problem for Snake.
I mean, it's been weird to me, but Cacao is honestly showing up Beast on Nunu, his signature champion. I didn't expect Beast to have two Nunu games and struggle to control early objectives, but Cacao showing him up almost every game, it seems like, this time on his champion.
And now he's suddenly on this unfamiliar role of Sejuani and just the engage tank requirement coming through for Snake. It's just not something that he's shown a lot of prowess on. The Jarvan, to some degree, is similar, but that was more about rotations into aggressive turret dives with the Flag and Drag CC. Is
first blood actually happens in the bottom side. Crystal with Ella. Kid down there by himself. Dies with his flash up under his turret.
And that's just going to be surprising burst damage. Of course, was off screen, so we didn't track it. But speaking of burst damage, they take down a champion. They explode a turret. And Snake, finally, something goes their way.
And you can see Justana objective control and how much single target damage she does, whether it's to a neutral like a structure or the dragon, or a champion with the rapid fire and the explosive shot. Tristana does not muck around with all these changes coming through, and it's been a while since we've seen her. She was so popular among many different Chinese AD carries for a while, and you have to think with 5.7 hitting, she might just be back.
And the big effect of the rework and then thus the buffs that she's seen recently is that, look, she's not as good. Basically, around Worlds time, she could just hit rapid fire and just kill people from massive range with two very good escape abilities in her ultimate and the rocket jump, and she just spread damage to whoever went her way. Now she's much more fiercely single target and gated around her rapid fire. So the fact that it scales on attacks to a single target with the explosive shot just means you're really priced into aggressively explosive charging a tank, for example, and then rapid firing on that champion. So there's more meaningful counterplay. If you have that charge on you, you can disengage out of the fight, move out of range, and then she'll lose a lot of damage because she won't have that same rapid fire uptime. And in general, her attack speed has been passively downscaled, so she scales less well with pure attack speed items. She's much more reliant on the steroids. So it's, again, if she finds someone alone, don't get me wrong, her burst damage is incredible.
Yeah, isolated Triss does go off here, and Crystal has his Infinity Edge down. Kid working on his does have a BF Sword to pairing with his Berserker Greaves and an Avarice Blade, but still looking for that first major item. I imagine he's got a bit of gold to spend there coming through as rookie on the Azir. Actually, I was Soren Ashes, but that's the tie here as Kiddies. Yeah, this is what you don't want here. Some good chompers will move in for the disengage.
Kao's actually caught in between multiple people. Teleport's been used.
Have to see what happens. Kakao is getting chased. Beast will throw the ulti, but it goes slightly wide. Kakao did flash it away. Can't get away from the tidal wave, but no one there left to chase him, so he'll be safe for now.
Strange time to use teleport with Dragon still 1 minute 50 away. They must have been hoping for multiple picks and maybe the outer turret, but this is still Azir. And I've learned anything about Azir lanes, and there's been plenty of them in the LPL, is that you don't take a turret down at 15 minutes.
Yeah, especially in this series here. It's 3 for 3 now in games with Azir, with Rookie taking it away here from Barker, and Barker, of course, having it in the first 2 games. Blue buff even getting aggressed on by Zatai as well. Wants to try and take it away, but Beast should be able to give it over to Orianna instead.
A big question mark is, where does Zatai go with this build? Of course, Luden's Echo is now a thing. It sounds like a Kale item to me with the movement speed and just extra splash damage. Does he just go into the Hurricane and have comparable wave clear to Flandre? You know, he'll be able to use the slow defensively and just clear waves and ensure there's never that awkward spot where Flandre can just split push turrets under his nose and have no kill pressure on him. You have to think the Hurricane would equalize some of that pressure. There's multiple different build parts. Of course, Kale's always been one of the most flexible champions in the league. From the Nash talk, you can at least see it's not going to be the AD Kale of ones. It's going to be the standard AP on-hit Kale coming through.
I think the top lane, though, you have to look there and think that Flandre kind of got out of a very sticky lane matchup with some very smart pushing there. I mean, both teams committed to pushing down some turrets. They both got 2 each here, although they weren't quite on the same sides. No tier 2 turrets being felled. And Flandre now has his teammate ready to go. A Ruby Sapphire Crystal there in as well with the Cloth Armor plus his Merc Treads. So slightly ahead in CS, not a massive lead by any means, but seems to have his tools that he wants here.
But it's not really a strategic hole for the Trundle to exploit like there would be if this was, say, the traditional Maokai versus Trundle matchup, where you just subjugate the Maokai, you know, use your ultimate on the Maokai and then just split push turrets with all your extra tanky stats. Kale's not going to build any tanky stats. Kale has excellent wave clear, and she has the utility in a team fight to match yours. So Kale, in a lot of ways, makes the laning phase difficult. You can say the laning phase has gone better than expected, but not the same split pushing hole you feel that Kale can really answer in this case. Just Trundle just has to be more accountable.
I mean, she is pushing, but Snake will take the Dragon away as a result. Zatai did have his TP, but didn't choose to join. Can he get the tier 2 turret? We can look and see, no, not quite enough damage. Good rotation, though, from IG. Will get them the turret in the mid, and Crystal has to be careful.
I mean, look, taking the turret in mid against Orianna is definitely not a gimme whatsoever. This is actually more than is expected, and Kale keeps pushing.
Yeah, Kale's still moving in. In fact, Zatai is just not stopping. Will get the turret, actually, moving in there as he'll take it away. And that's 4 turrets now for IG to 2. Didn't want the 3rd Dragon, but definitely wanted the turrets. And Rookie poking his way in gets Ella down to about 60% health.
But this has been the sad thing here for Snake fans. They've been consistently out-rotated. First Dragon for 2 turrets is a massively poor trade coming through from Snake. They get the 6% stats, but they lose almost every semblance of outer turrets and now inner turrets coming through.
Yeah, we can see, again, aggressive movements moving through, but Snake finally arresting some of the Dragon Snowballs. Good news for them, but the turrets may be getting out of control instead. So Invictus Gaming certainly doing quite a lot of work once again, but only a slight gold lead here. Snake, at one point, were ahead about 400 gold, now swinging back to about 1,000 up for IG.
And that's kind of the issue, though, Page Time, is these are strategic outplays rather than necessarily item timings or power spikes coming through for IG. They've just moved around the map smarter than Snake, and they've gotten more than expected. Suddenly they'll go back, spend that extra global gold, find more spots to get aggressive wards in, and their items will back up what has been very smart strategical play from the lineup.
Yeah, they've been looking good. I'd like to have all series long, to be honest, as Crystal. It's a bit of harass there, building on towards his zeal now, you have to think, with that dagger in the inventory for him. Tristana's actually been probably the other best looking thing here for Snake. Crystal's got plenty of farm here in this stage, not particularly behind in gold, actually slightly behind, but Kid still looking for his first major item. Going back now, you have to think he does in fact pick up the Infinity Edge. I mean, Tristana, if she can get going, certainly a late-game carry, and Crystal has shown plenty of late-game carry performances in the LPL this season.
And Kid is only slightly ahead because of the average split. He's actually contributed close to 400 gold already, so it's clearly the only thing keeping him ahead because he's only 100 gold ahead of his opponent. You're right. Infinity Edge finally completed, though they've gotten all these objectives without even a one-item power spike on Kid. We've already seen what Kid can do in a team fight when he's enabled, and man, he's got 4 champions to enable him.
Yeah, I mean, again, this comp very much built around Kid when they want to fight, but right now, IG are committing to a split push plan here. So Ty has not left the top lane in quite a while, and he's pushing on the inhibitor turret potentially next.
With the amp tome in the build, you have to think maybe a Lich Bane will be the completion here, or the Luden's Echo, obviously going to be an amp tome item. Probably not going to be 40% CDR, although he could do his best Lulu impression if he pushed towards 40% CDR. Already has 20% from the Nashors. Lots of flexible options because honestly, whether it's shorter cooldowns or more AP to heal the Jinx or just the Lich Bane to apply a bit of burst so when that Super Mega Death Rocket comes through, it gets the first reset on the Get Excited. You just always have so many choices when you're playing KO, and he's not really moved into any build. Nashor's to the core of any good KO build.
It is, and I actually like what IG are doing here, constantly rotating around, basically trying to find a weak spot to try and push down, because Snake's wave clear together is actually quite good, but Kid, free time on the turret here with Nunu Jana, and that turret is dead.
Exactly, and the disengage is crazy. Multiple members are coming, but good luck locking down even one member. Even the tanky cow would be the minimum loss in this situation. It's smart warding and smart map movements, and Snake's warding, honestly, it's never been their strong point. Ella's a very good solo warding person in that he does get very smart wards on champions like Jana, but the Beast Ella synergies gone with basically the movement away from the likes of Sightstone, and their wards are really costing them.
I mean, you know, had it on the Nunu 2 games in a row, warding probably much better there in the first 2, but in this game on Sejuani really needs to hit her items, is not innately tanky on her own despite all the greats you see in her kit. A good push from Snake will get in his kitties, actually gets nailed by the shockwave, but flashes over to the safety of the Raptors, and Jana will be safe.
Yeah, Ignite popped, but not enough damage to take her down. Forced KO to at least leave the top lane for once. That's something coming through for Snake. But yeah, the middle turret, that's something. They just need to keep going from there.
Yeah, managed to take that. 3-5 now in turrets as Snake. Sort of playing catch-up in objectives. Feels like all series long, to be honest. Satai still pushing in. Really hasn't left the lane for a while, but finally going to go back and chop, and we'll see what he wants to do with this build.
Satai doing his best Kid impression, you have to think. Just tanking up lots and lots of gold, keeping a lot in the inventory as you have to be amused by the Pillar of Ice.
Flunder is great. Actually getting it just in the right spot to displace Cal ever so slightly to make sure that recall is cancelled. But again, Zatai, 10 CS and counting, possibly moving in towards the 20 soon enough. And we pretty much had to expect it to match split push for split push here for Zatai versus Flandre. And a wonderful pick from Zatai and Kale. She's found a very good way to keep this Trundle at least sedated, if not down.
It's one of the things that Zatai is uniquely able to do. It's one of the reasons they were so happy to get him in the lineup over the tank role player in Pokemon, is that he can play Fizztop, he can play Karthus and actually hit more Skittles than basically any Karthus we've seen in competitive play, Barker included. He just has the mechanics because he played mid lane for, what, 400 or 500 competitive games. One of the biggest veterans of the competitive scene, despite being only the tender age of 17, going on 18 in 2015. He's always had good carry mechanics and KOs, and effectively an off carry in this case.
And you can see nothing quite yet. Zatai, I think, still farming, has quite a bit of gold banked up.
He's going to buy a sick item.
Whatever it is, it's going to be pretty sick, because he does actually go for Berserker Greaves, sort of accentuating the split push qualities of his build.
Here we go.
Phantom Dancer done as well for Tristan. I mean, some items
Luden's time.
Oh, it's Luden's.
Luden's time is coming through. It sounded like a good KL item. She needed more wave clear, of course, but it's a little bit more instant wave clear coming through. Less E-procs needs come through with that splash damage. IG really want this dragon, but teleport's already coming.
Yeah, Flandre going to force a fight here in Snake. Going to try and take their second dragon. Zatai will finally join in for a team fight here. But a good Pillar of Ice zones them away. IG trying to get some damage done, but Snake have plenty of good damage. Beast actually, 4-man ulti coming through. Shockwave comes in as well. Hits onto 2, and they're on the carries. Crystal goes in deep in the backline trying to get resets. Gets one, will reset now. Good ult though from Rookie, might push him out. But Kid's going to go down. That's a second reset, and Snake, signs of life finally being showed. They get the team fight they want. Kiddy's going to get slowed by the Pillar. Crystal will chase him down for another kill as Bucker will collect. Flandre is still chasing now, but that's a dragon. Not yet, but 4 kills done for Snake.
Crystal finally found the aggressive champion for him. It's Tristana with the reset potential for the position. His position's not always great at the start of the fight, but this time they have the assertive team. They're the ones starting to fight. It doesn't matter so much what Crystal's positioning is. His reposition was confirmed. They get the 4 kills, and they're rushing over to Baron.
Yeah, they want the Baron. No towers, no dragon is what they want here. Beast on top of the objective. Pink ward slapped down there by Snake. And they're going to take this out quite quickly. We mentioned Tristana's mid-game damage. Watch this Baron fall.
And Azir, you understand, they stayed in bottom lane too long, saw multiple members. They had a ward around the back. So the best they can hope to do is trade Baron for a 3rd dragon. And anyone can tell you, not ideal for IG.
Yeah, Snake will be happy with that trade. And we mentioned their team fighting. The big proactive pick there from Beast on the Sejuani. Hasn't played that many games on him, but that was a wonderful ultimate to start the team fight.
And it'll be super interesting to see, can Trundle now out-split push KO with the Baron buff minion waves? Going to be that much harder for the magic damage splashing through from KO's E to actually clear these waves. Has decent wave clip, doesn't have the Ludens just yet. And the 5-man pushing in mid. Azir, again, needs time to clear these waves. Much harder when they're so damn tanky.
Yeah, well, Luden's done for Barker now as well. As we can see, Flandre with a Spirit Visage as well, actually. So fairly tanky, now on the Trundle, so we'll be able to challenge the Ty's KO much better in this situation. Beast even getting tankier himself with a Giants button now built in, and Crystal, being Crystal, going to go in for a Bloodthirster 3rd.
I mean, honestly, IG have shown no respect whatsoever to this Sejuani engage. No Merc Treads being purchased by anyone at this point. Everyone's opting into aggressive boots. Maybe Nunu will consider it, but everyone else is already committed. No semblance of a QSS. This kid's still putting up to that 3rd big damage item. There's definitely team fights that IG can win. They're only 2,000 gold behind with Nunu Jinx, which of course does massive damage into the late game. But we've got this reset button. Snake's going to have all the pressure now that they have the Baron buff minions. And Crystal himself has 2 Ks at the start of his name.
Yeah, and that's a testament, honestly, to the... so IG's gold lead is a... Sorry, we'll reset again. IG's gold deficit here, which is not that long, is actually a testament to how well they played around objectives. Look at that column there right next to the kills. They have 0 kills in this game, but the dragons, the turrets, and all the advantage they built up by split pushing means that in a game where you'd look at the scoreboard and expect them to be quite far behind, they're actually very competitive in this game.
That's been what they've set up for. They've been about rotations. We mentioned they've been outfoxing Snake by just showing up in bottom lane and top lane, just using their smart warding to take objectives. But you're right, they have no kills whatsoever. There's been no chance to get excited for Kid. And look at this damage coming through from Tristana. Her siege damage is insane.
It really is, and you can see, we talk about the single target Tristana damage now on 5.7. Whether it's the structures, whether it's objectives, or just enemy champions, she does a lot of work, and Crystal going to do it again. That's 2 turrets dead, equalizing the 5 turrets finally.
And there's just nothing IG can do. They're just watching objectives fall down. Now the gold lead that we kind of speculate on is starting to get there. The kills are starting to hurt a little bit more. IG, they've got some very smart tools to deal with what Snake are doing, but they're not respecting the Sejuani in particular, and so far it's been the ultimate trump card.
It only needed 1 team fight, but that snowballed into a Baron, which meant 2 turrets went down as well. Flandre even going to work in on a 3rd outer, potentially, as Snake looked to take out those 6 crucial turrets, and Baron buffs up for a little while longer here. IG are defending as much as they can, but even Rookie with the soldiers up, taking quite a while to kill the Baron up cannon.
I'm a bit disappointed at the lack of Merc Treads. That seems like the obvious item to complete against a Sejuani. That's what you need in this case. Your position is always going to be at a premium when the Pillar of Ice is being able to thrown out. They're just going for that extra damage early. When they weren't even opting into fights, they were rotating anyway. It's just going to cost them.
Yeah, Snake not going to push too much harder. Baron does drop, so they don't overcommit to taking out the bottom turret as well. Crystal and Steg will kill the poor Gromp, who dies so quickly there to the single target damage. Zatai back to split pushing now as well, working on a Hurricane for maximum damage and split push potential on this KO, but everyone else from Snake's getting stronger as well. And you have to think that next team fight's a difficult one for IG to try and take.
Yeah, the Hurricane works in a couple of ways. Obviously, in just a pure pushing wave, you're just pushing down the minions, but in a team fight, you're spreading your passive. Everyone's going to be 15% shred of their armor and magic. Just, again, maybe that's what you need to get that first big super mega death rocket, to get that first big kill and set up the likes of Kid to carry, because you have the disengage, you have the ultimate coming through the intervention. It's getting that first kill has been very difficult so far, and again, maybe finding a way to negate Tristana's impact, either disengaging the target that has the explosive charge right on top of them, or smart use of the Kale ultimate. The thing is, Kale cannot be CC'd when her carries are. They need to be split in terms of any sort of team fight. You need to see different positioning from the Kale than from either the Azir or the Jinx, just so that ultimate is useful. Because if they commit everyone onto Kayle, maybe that will open up an option to get kills to trade in that situation. But otherwise, Kayle needs to be using that intervention defensively on a carry.
Yeah, and they just can't afford to get caught out here. Even Kayle's ultimate won't save her from all the Sejuani CC, so you can happily kite out someone that's been intervened and then just re-engage with whatever tills you have. Maybe Orianna Shockwave, or at this point, Crystal's just going to jump on someone's face and go in. Speaking of Crystal, he's actually got his Bloodthirster done now as well. So 3 aggressive items, very squishy lineup from IG as well, with the exception of Cacao and Crystal. It's his time to shine finally in the series.
It's a really good build path. Of course, they've gone for Kayle just so there isn't an obvious subjugate target for Trundle to just kind of laugh in front of and render useless. So the result is that everyone's squishy to the enemy AD carry. And even if that steroid is gated around single target damage in this particular version of Tristana, everyone is going to melt like butter to Crystal.
They are indeed, and Snake, you can see, getting their aggressive wards down. Beast did actually pick up a Sightstone after everything, so you can see their warding been increased much more now that they've been getting aggressive in the enemy jungle and able to leave the Sightstone trail down. Flandre still pushing in the bottom lane, gonna go back and pick himself up some item. Have to think Frozen Heart is on the way, if not completed. Crystal gonna do the same, wants to go back, and you can see why. Dragon back up in 40 seconds, and Snake, that is something they need to make sure IG don't get their hands on.
Look, you can look at this minimap, and any layperson can tell this is not a situation where IG can contest any objectives. The pink ward's so aggressively in their red side jungle, a couple of defensive wards in their blue side jungle, but biting off a dragon fight is going to be super, super hard for Invictus Gaming.
It will indeed, as we can see. Fight maybe brewing here in the mid side as well. Dragon back up fairly soon, and no one dead quite yet. IG wanting to try and find a fight, but people have backed away. We've got a pickaxe done there for Crystal as well, and Dragon's back alive. We have to think the fight will start soon.
Only Crystal getting caught out is really a way that Invictus Gaming can win a fight. Pillar of Ice, very smart in this situation, but no poke onto Cacao.
I didn't quite think about that synergy, but zoning people out for Tristana to do single target damage with Trundle, not too bad.
Tristana is super interesting in this case, and look at the damage.
Ulti there coming through, does miss there as it's flashed away. Flandre taking a bit too much damage as Ella gets eaten by a Flame Chomper. The TIE forced to flash away though. Rookie coming in, and it's a big contest for IG, but Cacao going to ulti defensively. Rookie moves it back in. Crystal almost goes down to Azir as Ella will fall, and Crystal's got to find a way back in, but he's getting zoned so hard by this Azir, and Flandre needs to chase him away, trying to get the solo kill. Does get it with the Tiamat active. Now's the time running away, but Baka will chase him down. The TIE will stand his ground. Baka will get the kill. Kid's gonna fall to Flandre, and the one-man army of the Trundles going absolutely ballistic.
Yeah, Flandre's so tanky in the front line, even with multiple machine gun auto attacks, no one can kill him. And Crystal's still alive.
Yep, Crystal gets the last kill. That's the ace completed by Snake as well. 6 turret will fall as well, and Snake gonna charge into the base.
And it looked like Snake would roll over and die after 2 objectively poor performances. Watching IG in this 3rd game rotate around and take objective, but the critical factor, they never got any kills, so the gold lead was always minimal. And now that counter rotations have come through, and the base is in ruins for IG.
And we talked about it the first 2 games, both sides picking a lot of defensive-looking team comps, lots of disengage, which is quite popular right now. It makes sense to me. I can understand why that's what they're going for, but Snake, seems like they just needed something a bit more proactive, because when they can make plays and force you to fight them, they are magical at team fighting.
Just a proactive AD carry with a reposition coming through for Crystal. Goes back deep into that champion, but brings back the champion he favored so much in the first 3 weeks of the season before the changes came through in the Tristana. 5-1, and obviously a good luck charm for the team.
This is a 2v4 right now. Make it a 1v5 actually for Flandre, who's still alive now. Crystal going to come in. Rookie almost dead to just the Tristana autos. Cacao will zone them out with an auto, but Beast fairly tanky. Ulti comes through. That's going to force the rocket jump away for Triss. They will back away. They should be able to re-engage fairly soon, but Beast, no ultimate, and Flandre still taunting the enemy, you have to think.
Happily poked away a recall coming through, so that's going to be the dragon. That's 2 dragons to 3, so not a win condition just yet for Snake, but they don't need many more. They've broken the base, and they're winning team fights very comfortably.
Yeah, Baron, their next big objective. It is back alive here, but Snake are going to force Rookie back to the bottom side with that inhibitor, still pushing super minions in towards that side of the map. Flandre melting the minion waves down now as well with that Ravenous Hydra. He's so tanky on this Trundle.
And the plan, Kale, went fine in lane. You can see how maybe you'll be able to stop split pushing. But if you start picking up objectives like Baron, and especially if Trundle's just getting in melee range of Kid, Trundle's still doing his job just fine.
He is indeed. As Crystal, 4 items now as well. Got the Bloodthirster completed on the Trista. Might even just go full damage at this stage. Barker moving in. Does have a death cap now completed as well. And Ella, Mikhail's and the captain's enchantment on the boots of mobility as well. You can look up and see Snake almost 10,000 gold ahead, sorry. And they're just as ahead as IG have been all series long. Finally, the shoe's on the other foot.
And Kid desperately needs lifesteal to counter what's coming through. Has a lot of damage and has the Blood Boil steroid. But you're going to eventually take auto attacks from some member, whether it's even the Tristana herself or just Oriana and Trundle's incidental damage. Need lifesteal to navigate fights, and none available yet for Kid.
Crystal pushing in as well. Has been pretty aggressive in positioning, and that's honestly benefited him in this game finally, with Snake being able to be much better with their follow-up CC. Oriana especially able to help control this AD carry, and Ludens plus Tristana, they're going to push waves fairly well. 7 turrets down already, looking to break the base once more, but Snake probably a bit more interested in this Baron.
From the moment that Crystal got that solo kill off screen, after all the rotations have come through, I mean, the Tristana's just been the big difference between these two teams. You can see how much work it's done, can still position very aggressively, still being able to reset in fights with such a squishy lineup, and it's assassination Tristana coming in.
Yeah, Flandre and Crystal doing this again. Happy to 2v4 or 2v5 apparently in this game, as Flandre will take some perks. Cacao will chuck a ward into the back, but Crystal going to join his team for Baron damage, and that Baron is dead. Almost sniped away by Kid, but Beast smites it away, and Flandre zoning the entire enemy team by himself. Crystal launches himself, and Shockwave gets the tie and Kitties as they go down to tie. Ults himself at the last second. Kid coming in, but Crystal lives to tell the tale. Rookie running rampant, gets caught by the scrying orb. Can't do anything, gets away. Will go down to about 3 shots from Crystal and Snake. They get the ace, the Baron, and IG surrender.
They have to surrender. The big talking point there, Pastry Time, is that in minigun form, you could not take down the Tristana as Jinx because the lifesteal was so massive and the Q was available, so the rapid fire blew him down. And IG, smart rotations early, but blown out of the water by Snake.
Yeah, Snake finally able to find some team fights, get ahead in the earlier mid-game, and as we've said, it's very hard to beat Snake when they're ahead, and boy were they ahead by the end of that game.
I mean, the objectives look quite even, 5-7, just as we saw the surrender vote come through, but 15-1 in kills, only the 1 kill for Azir to show them that game. Back to the drawing board, you have to think, from IG. Maybe it's just a day of engage, because these passive rotational comps, they've had some wins, but generally they've been in the loss column.
I mean, I guess the issue for those sort of comps is that so reliant on basically not making a mistake, very execution heavy, not as far as, mechanical skill goes.